Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Atheist Experience. We are live. Today is October 26, 2008.
Right. It's not that I'm saying that, I fully understand this model. This is my model that I came up with, and that's not at all it. And that authoritative interpretation of it is a mistake that's often made. I find that a lot of times that religious people will, because they accept things on an authoritative basis, they assume the same is done for everyone. So they say, you just believe this because science says it. And my response to that is, no, I don't believe it. I just understand the model. And that's fine. I can understand the model, but I can't believe beyond what I'm able to understand. And if I'm not qualified to evaluate this data or even know what data is available, how can I call that my belief? But to go on with this, that part of that was about the idea that I get people who say, this is what I believe, and then they send me a link to an article someone else wrote. And they don't give any sort of extrapolation about how that relates to what they think about it. So it's almost as though they're handing it to me and saying, what Joe Smith wrote, that's what I believe. And my response to that often is that if I ask them questions, they send me another link. So if I question somebody about their belief, and they can't respond to it, if you can't explain it, if you can't understand it, if you can't dialogue about it, I don't know on what level you're saying this is what you believe, because it seems to me you barely understand it, if at all. So if I assert something is what I believe, there really is very little reason I can see to hand someone a link to what someone else wrote as representing my belief. But if I do such a thing, I at least owe some input about why I'm linking beyond I'd like this other guy to answer for me and explain to you what I believe. That is absurd. If I can't understand and explain a concept, on what grounds is that my belief?
Well, in some cases, and I'll go ahead and play theist advocate for a second. In some cases, it may be that they've read something that's particularly eloquent that expresses their beliefs in a way that they're incapable of doing without necessarily any relation to their ability to understand it. I think there's probably still a relation there.
Right. At some point, though, they're going to have to be able to explain what they believe.
Yeah.
If you can't explain it, how am I supposed to believe that you understand it?
Yeah.
So, for me to make any kind of a judgment about whether or not you're capable of believing a thing, I have to evaluate how capable you are of understanding what you're even saying you believe. And if you don't seem to be able to understand it and to communicate it, then I have no reason to accept that you understand it well enough to call it your belief.
And this translates also into the people who would during a discussion, when you say, well, why do you believe that? And then they just quote a Bible verse.
Right.
Here's a Bible verse. And actually, a quick note, we got an email this week from the info address where there's a spot on our webpage where you can just go and send feedback, and it gets in along with the regular email. The title of the email was John 3:16, and the entire text of the email was the quote of John 3:16. That's it. Nothing else. No name, no commentary, no exposition on their take. Just John 3:16. For God so loved the world, He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever shall
believed in Him shall not
die,
perish,
but have everlasting life. That was it. That's all it said. And while normally I probably would have ignored that, I actually sent back a reply that some people would probably think is rude, but I think the nature of the initial post was kind of rude.
I agree.
And I sent back and I said, I'm curious, what was going on in your head when you sent this?
Right.
Did you think that we'd just never heard that verse before? Did you think that this one particular verse was going to be all someone needed to say, oh, what was I thinking? Here I am an atheist, and God sent His only Son to die for. Oh, why? Why didn't I realize that? I don't, as somebody, do you not realize that the majority of the people in the ACA are former Christians, some rather serious about it, some who have spent a great deal of time studying and even on rare occasions lecturing about the Bible? I mean, I realize you probably, the person who sent it in probably doesn't know squat about us. But holy crap, to just send in a verse with nothing else.
Right.